Yeah. Okay. Last question. We've talked a lot about the kind of opportunities around better use of data, better use of digital. What are the risks that ICBs face if they don't have all these skills in place? You know, and those could be things from having an exec that is perhaps not as data literate as it might be, or you know, are not comfortable with commissioning or interpreting evaluations, for example. You know, we commission all sorts of things. We very regularly evaluate them. But right down at that level of, you know, financial planning, ultimately clinical outcomes. What are the risks for an ICB if these data and digital tools are not in place?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably two words that I would probably sum it up with, and that's decisions and value. So I think you sort of described it. You know, having senior decision makers who aren't necessarily enabled to make those the decisions that they need to make. So I think if we've got bad data, it's the classic thing: garbage in, garbage out. Quite frankly, firstly, everyone loses trust with the analytics, and so it becomes a sideshow. Whereas I think now is the huge opportunity with the model ICB blueprint, with the direction of travel that's likely to be coming through with the 10-year plan, for it to move from being that sideshow to being the thing that really is informing and driving the decision making. And I think that's really where I would love us to get to going forwards, is that actually as systems, and then as organizations within the system, and then with teams working at that local level, that the data and the analytics are really just driving those good quality decision making. And in so doing, I think that leads to the value. And that's value for the patient, and it's value for the system. You know, triple aim of healthcare: best experience, best outcome, best value. And so, and you know, spending review last week, announcement around additional funding for the NHS, and seeing that as a win for the NHS. So there's a lot of challenges around that, but you know, the NHS budget is now £200 billion, and there's a lot of unease about, firstly, the size of that, and then how can we evidence and show that we are really getting the most bang for our buck? And I think the way that we can do that is by making informed decisions that are evidence-based and data-led, and that when we make those decisions, that we use the data to close the loop, that we evaluate the impact that we do have, and that we actually start to create these learning cycles within the system using the data that we've got. And then I think, going to one of your earlier points about, it's not just about the activity, it's about the value to the individual. So bringing in information about quality of life and some of that wider data. And the last thing for me on this is about how, linked to the value argument, is how we can use data and analytics to target, to be more personalized with the care that we are offering and providing and commissioning or delivering. And moving away from a sort of one size fits all model, something which is a bit more differentiated by segment, by risk strat, and starting to target that care onto the people who are most likely to benefit. So going to another thing that there's a hot topic at the moment around neighborhood health and the integrated neighborhood teams. You know, when you're starting to do that multi-specialty, multi-agency working, that's quite a resource intense service care that you're delivering. You don't want to do that as a sort of blanket approach. You want to be focusing and honing that into the people who are most likely to benefit. And so it's using the data and the analytics to really do that targeted approach and personalizing care.
Yeah, well, great point to end on. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for being the guinea pig for the first edition of 3D that we came up with the name 10 seconds before we did it. We look forward to the next one. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot.